In the headlines, the Director of Sports and other political appointees are dismissed. Guyana and Suriname eye robust cooperation. The President's inauguration. And Jacky Jaxx's powerhouse performance. And in sport, Chandrapaul Hemraj looking forward to positive results as Hero CPL prepares for imminent bowl-off. With the news, I'm Neil Marks. We're glad you could join us. The finance and natural resources sectors will fall under the oversight of the President's office. It was announced on Monday. No finance minister has been named by President Irfan Ali. Though there is a Minister of Natural Resources, the Newsroom understands that because of the size and importance of the sector, the President's office will have oversight. The regulations for the petroleum sector, for example, falls under the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission, which is a department of the Ministry of Natural Resources. This position is expected to change once key outstanding legislation is passed in the National Assembly. Director of Sport Christopher Jones has been fired with immediate effect. The Newsroom understands that Jones actually had his contract renewed at the end of March, weeks after the elections when it was clear the coalition had lost power. The Newsroom has learned that Jones was sent his letter of dismissal Monday morning by Charles Ramson Jr., the newly appointed Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport. Jones managed much of the coalition's elections campaign and engaged in a highly publicized verbal confrontation with then opposition leader Bharat Jagdeo outside the Ashman's building in Georgetown when it was clear that the vote tabulation was being doctored. Jones was later a leading voice for the coalition in trying to defend the electoral fraud intended to keep APNU-AFC in office. Andrew Weeks, who was hired as the communications officer for former Housing Minister Annette Ferguson, was on Monday fired from the ministry. Weeks was one of the active public relations officers who was active on the APNU-AFC campaign trail and even during the national vote recount when the party set up a live broadcast at the recount site. He was hired in January while the ministry already had a PR department with 3 persons. Others whose contracts were terminated included Technical Assistant Remington Nelson, Personal Assistant Leon Castello, Confidential Secretary Sandra Booker, Personal Security Nelson Innes, and Advisor to the Minister Carmichael Thorne.
Today we were reconciling the staff inventory for the ministry. You would have been aware that this aspect of the ministry fell under the Ministry of Communities, and so now you have the Ministry of Housing and Water, the formation of the Ministry of Housing and Water. So initially when I received the staffing details, I was only given the staffing details for the Central Housing and Planning Authority, and then I saw a number of other employees around and today, and then when I checked it out, I discovered that there were actually some additional staff, but they were employed through the Ministry of Communities, and one of which coincidentally I've seen a lot. I didn't even realize he was still employed here. One Weeks, in fact his correct name is Andrew Weeks. He was employed as the communication officer to the minister. I found that employment interesting because this Ministry of Housing here, we also have a PR. There's a PR department and there are 3 other staff. There's a public relation officer and 2 assistant public relation officers. So in a ministry like this, you now have 4. So this afternoon we took the decision to relieve Mr. Weeks among the others that were attached within the Secretariat, because those of you who follow the Facebook and the social media would see that Mr. Weeks have been involved actively in political postings, etc., which runs contrary to his employment engagement here at the ministry.
The Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development says it has discovered some 56 persons who are on the payroll receiving about $13.5 million overall per month since 2015, but there is no evidence or record of their work towards the ministry. Minister Nigel Dharamlal revealed at a press briefing on Monday at the Artichon Conference Centre that ministerial advisors of the former APNU-AFC government are among these persons. Dharamlal further explained that since the new government was sworn in last week, these persons have not showed up to work.
We found that in the Minister's Secretariat, in the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, there were 23 staff who were earning as much in total per month, $7.730 million per month, 23 staff. And who were those staff? Those staff happened to be elements which we believe were part of the political machinery at that time of the government. We have been unable to verify and to validate the performance of these staff because there is no record of their work, there is no documentation of their work, and since we took office, there has been no presence of their person in the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development. And I'll give you some examples. There is one advisor, a special ministerial advisor on local government, who was earning $418,674 per month, a duty allowance, non-taxable duty allowance of $25,000 per month, a telephone allowance of $15,000 per month, Oscar Clark. And since we have taken office, we have not seen him. And from the reports that we have received is that this individual turned up to work 3 half days per week, earning this monument almost, when you add it all up, possibly close to $500,000 per month. We also have a special ministerial, despite we have a Ministry of Agriculture, the Minister of Local Government and Communities at that time had a special advisor in Rupert Hopkinson who was earning $376,807 per month with a non-taxable allowance of $70,000 per month, a telephone allowance of $10,000 per month landline. And we also had an advisor to the minister. As a matter of fact, we had 2 advisors to the minister, Carmichael Thorne and Samuel Paris. Carmichael Thorne was earning $88,250 per month, plus $30,000 per month in non-taxable allowances and telephone, as well as a traveling allowance of $20,000 per month. That is over $500,000 per month. And we have no record of any of the work that they would have done. And these are individuals whose contracts were renewed even after the no confidence motion was passed and renewed for a substantial period. So their contracts are also in effect, but the fact that they have not yet turned up to work, it means that they are in terrible breach of their contract. We also have there's a department in the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development called the Community Councils Department. And from the names we have perused, these are all political operatives of the APNU-AFC. For example, the former Member of Parliament of the APNU-AFC in Region 6, Barbara Pilgrim, is on the payroll of the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development for $210,982 per month, a non-taxable allowance of $10,000 per month, and a telephone allowance of $10,000 per month. And I can go through the names with you. Manbod Rahaman, Darul Khan, Carol Nurse from Region 5, the area that I come from. She is also on the... so there are very many of them. I think one of the conspicuous names is Ganesh Mahipal. Ganesh Mahipal is on the payroll of the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, assigned to the Regional Democratic Council of Region Number 3, earning a salary as a Community Development Officer, and contracted since the August 1st, 2015, of $210,982 per month, with a duty allowance, a non-taxable duty allowance of $10,000 per month. The Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development will hold everyone accountable for all expenses done without due process.
There is more news ahead. Stay with us. This is the Newsroom. The government of Guyana has commenced securing an initial sum of $4.5 billion as an emergency response to help households affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. This was disclosed by President Irfaan Ali during his inauguration speech on Saturday at the National Cultural Center.
We have commenced work on securing immediately an initial sum of $4.5 billion as emergency response to help at the household level. We met with the governor of the central bank and advised him to extend regulatory permission so as to allow for bankers to continue extending moratoriums. We have also looked at the possibility of adjusting the reserve requirement, which will allow the banks to have more disposable resources, and tying that adjustment with lower interest rates. We have started to examine from a fiscal perspective what support we can give to the private sector and other groups, all with a view of supporting a resumption of the economic activities and putting our people back to work. We have reached out to several multilateral and bilateral sources with a view to urgently mobilize financial resources of the magnitude that is necessary to overcome the effects of this pandemic. I must say, the response has been encouraging.
With only 1 week in office, the government has already mobilized and received 46,000 rapid antibody test kits, personal protective equipment, approximately 240,000 surgical masks and face shields, gowns and other supplies. Dr. Ali disclosed that the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mayor Motley, has sent an additional 15,000 PCR test kits, while another 10,000 PCR kits from PAHO will arrive in the country this week. Former Foreign Secretary Carl Greenwich will be retained by the People's Progressive Party government as Guyana's agent in the ongoing border case with Venezuela at the International Court of Justice.
Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation Utah told the media that former Minister and Foreign Secretary Carl Greenwich will remain on the team which is fighting the border controversy at the International Court of Justice. The foreign minister reiterated sentiments expressed by leaders of both sides of the political divide that the border case is not a political issue.
So former Foreign Minister Greenwich is on the team. He's still on the team. He will be on the team through the conclusion of this matter. He has already briefed me on the current position. I think the ICJ meets in September because they're on leave, given that they believe in their summer. So they're going to meet again in September. So he's still integrally involved. We're very happy to have his service, and he's very committed to the process. This is not a political issue; it's a national issue, and he recognizes that, and he's very accommodating to us.
Todd said the ICJ is expected to meet again in September when the matter will continue. He clarified that Mr. Greenwich is not being retained in his capacity as Foreign Secretary, which was the position he served over the past year under the previous APNU-AFC administration. Asked if the coalition member will be offered a job beyond the border case, Todd said that will be discussed at a later date.
What you're saying is that you don't have plans about his job portfolio into the future after this?
That is not necessary now. What is necessary now is his commitment to the process. Moving forward, I won't be able to say. Well, that depends on the former minister himself and his discussions with President Ali.
Mr. Greenwich served as the Minister of Foreign Affairs from May 2015 to July 2018 until he and other MPs resigned from the National Assembly over their dual citizenship status. However, during his tenure, Mr. Greenwich filed a case at the ICJ to settle the territorial dispute between Guyana and Venezuela, in which the Spanish-speaking country is claiming 70% of this country's territory. The case was first heard in June 2020, where arguments was led by Guyana's first Attorney General Sir Sridhat Ramphal. Guyana's official and representative delegation were Carl Greenwich, Ambassador Audrey Waddell, now Parliamentary Affairs Minister Gail Teixeira, former Foreign Minister Rashley Jackson and Ambassadors Elizabeth Harper and Cedric Joseph. Bibi Khatun reporting for the Newsroom.
Minister of Local Government and Regional Development Nigel Dharamlal on Monday said the ministry plans to increase the subvention currently provided to the 10 municipalities and 70 neighbourhood democratic councils so that they can effectively manage their affairs and execute their duties.
When we came into office many years ago, we were the first government to have local government and regional local government elections in place in 1994, and it is also the mandate of President Irfan Ali that local government elections will continue. We will continue to strengthen the capacity of our local organs. One of the weaknesses of the local government system is the capacity of local support, the local leaders to provide services to our villages and to our communities. So the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development intends to vigorously strengthen those local organs to ensure that they become more efficient and effective in their relationships with our citizens. We also intend to pursue very quickly an increase in the subvention provided to the NDCs, the Neighborhood Democratic Councils, as well as the municipalities, because in the 70 municipalities and the 70 NDCs and the 10 municipalities, they require substantial financial support. And with the intervention of the government, we will be increasing the subvention currently provided. We will also be supporting our local government bodies to manage resources and to take on greater responsibility where the infrastructure of our communities are concerned.
Meanwhile, Dharamlal has promised exponential growth to the country's capital city, Georgetown. An interministerial committee will be established sometime this week to manage an elevation of Georgetown project. This committee will work closely with the Mayor and City Council to improve the city's economic and infrastructural status.
Very soon, the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development will establish an interministerial committee that will work very closely with the residents of Georgetown and, of course, the councillors too, to make sure that that elevation happens very soon and it happens in the best interest of national development. I'd like to say to you that I met with Minister Prasad and I met with His Worship the Mayor this morning. We had a very cordial meeting. We paid a courtesy call. We went to City Hall, to the Mayor's office, and we met with the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor. Like I said, we discussed generally a renewed relationship. We discussed generally how we would like to work more closely with the residents of Georgetown and what is our modus operandi in collaborating with the Georgetown mayors and city councillors. We would like to have Georgetown elevated to the real capital city that it ought to be. There is a lot of work to be done in the city. There are tremendous challenges facing the Georgetown mayors and mayor and city councillors. And more importantly, there are tremendous challenges facing the citizens of Georgetown, including residents and businesses. So that interministerial committee will be activated very shortly, and we expect it to be before the end of the year.
When the newsroom returns, the President is confident that a new partnership with Suriname will bear fruit. The President of Suriname, Chandrapaul Prasad Santokhi, on Sunday said his one-day visit to Guyana has resulted in a new spirit of cooperation between the two countries, saying this is a new time in which relations between the two countries will not be characterized by just talk. In an interview with the Newsroom, he said discussions about bridging the Corentyne River, engaging in more business and investment in fighting COVID-19 will be followed up by both presidents directly as a way of ensuring that the agreements they reach are actually implemented.
We want another relation. We want another cooperation. And we want another spirit between these two Caribbean countries, which are on the continent. of South America. And that we believe that with these two leaders leading the two nations, we can create a better prosperity for our people in both nations.
Mr. President, you say you want a new spirit, I suppose a new spirit of cooperation. What are some areas do you think that Guyana and Suriname could cooperate on immediately?
I think at this moment the entire world, but also the Caribbean region and also our two nations, are facing the challenge of COVID-19. And here we see that there are a lot of issues at this moment. There are a lot of Guyanese people in Suriname who wants to repatriate. We see that the border is closed. We see that the ferry is not operational. And we see the impact also on doing business. But the high priority is to how to protect our community against the spreading of the COVID-19 virus. So this will be the first step, what we will take, and the agreement has been made already, that we will work now in a new structure of dialogue on the highest level of presidency with a lot of sectors of policy, and one of the sectors of policy with high priority is the health sector, to have good coordination and communication between Suriname and Guyana to deal with this issue, so that those issues which I have mentioned can be solved as quick as possible.
Tell me something that you would like to see done immediately.
At this moment, we see that there are a lot of business opportunities. And we are confronted with a very high financial crisis. And we're dealing that with international institutions. But here is Barbados in our region. Here is Guyana as a neighboring countries, which is facing a similar situation. Let me learn also from Guyana and Barbados how they are dealing with this financial crisis. But secondly, invite the business community. There are some low-hanging fruits. There are business people already here who can invest in Suriname, because the investment in small, medium enterprises, that can strengthen the backbone of our economy, and that shouldn't take a lot of time and bureaucracy. We invited this morning the private sector to be engaged in a formal cooperation between Suriname and Guyana in a joint chamber of commerce organization. And that will be the first step when I arrive this afternoon in Suriname to take this measure. So two things will be done this week: COVID cooperation and the establishment of that cooperation on the private and the business levels through the joint chamber of commerce cooperation.
Mr. President, were you able to come to any sort of agreement on a way forward for the ferry service? As you mentioned, that's important for business, for travel with people whenever COVID-19 is over.
Yes, that will be one of the other policy sector in the new framework of cooperation, and that will be the ferry issue, but also the impediments in the free movement of persons and goods at the border area, and that will be dealt in a proper way. There is a very pressure on us as two leaders to have that new policy set out in a new timeline, and that will be not over so many months. It will be over so many days and so many weeks. So we want to finalize what we have agreed this morning in a new cooperation agreement, which should be signed over a couple of weeks, and that should be done by the two presidents to give also a signal towards our community and also to the Caribbean region that this is a new stage we are entering as new leaders to have a better, stronger cooperation, and that should be done on all areas of cooperation, also on border issues, also on the ferry problem.
Sir, there was talk before about bridging the Quarantine River. What needs to be done to make that happen?
Yes, that will be another sector to examine what the status of that bridge. What we had heard in the past, that there were memorandums of understanding signed already between Suriname and Guyana, and also with China. I had heard that there were more international institutions, multilateral institutions, which were approached to have some financing on this project. The the sector which will be part of that new corporation will determine what the status now is and how we should continue with this project and what will be the heading of this project. But that is the commitment we made as two leaders. There will be a bridge, a physical bridge, but in addition to this physical bridge, there will be more bridges towards the community, towards the private sector, towards all the other interest areas where we'll agree to have also strong cooperation.
Guyana and Suriname has a historic relationship, and some of the issues highlighted now have been discussed before. But President Irfan Ali believes under his tenure, more will come to fruition as the two sides have set proactive agenda with strict guidelines. The governments have established a strategic dialogue and cooperation platform led by the newly elected presidents of the two countries to implement a number of projects during their time in office.
We have laid the framework that would enable us to make use of the opportunities, that would enable us to confront the challenges, that would define the way we approach international partners, international financial institutions, the raising of capital, the management of the natural resources sector, joint engagement on local content policy, because as you're aware, Suriname is also an emerging player in the oil and gas sector, the sharing of information on issues of security, use of technology, joint radar surveillance of our borders. These are all some of the weighty issues that we have addressed, and we are setting up a working committee at the policy level and at the technical level, not only to advance discussions, but to come up with a timetable of action.
Guyana has recorded 64 new COVID-19 cases within 3 days. The total number of confirmed cases now stands at 568.
As of August the 9th, the number of persons tested is 5,313, with 4,745 persons being negative. The total number of tests done is 6,524. The number of positive cases have climbed to 568, with 22 COVID-related deaths. There are 357 active cases in institutional isolation, 38 persons in institutional quarantine, and 4 persons in the COVID ICU. To date, 189 persons have recovered. For the period 7th to 10th of August, 64 new cases were reported. These cases came from regions 9, 7, 8, and once more, region 4. Guyanese, I urge you to come forward and get tested if you're showing symptoms of COVID-19 or if you've been in contact with someone suspected of the disease. Further, persons who have concerns about their status regarding COVID-19 can make contact with our testing site for an evaluation. Being tested means that you know your status and gives you the ability to seek the necessary treatment and further prevent the spread of this detrimental disease. So fellow Guyanese, let us act wisely and be responsible as we start another exciting week. You can continue to do all the things you need to do safely and in a way that does not compromise public health in Guyana. COVID-19 is here with us and will not go away by us denying or ignoring its presence. It is real, as we know from the many persons we've lost and the agony and sadness of their families and friends. We know it is hard, but please be assured that all the health workers, both in public and private sector settings, are doing their best for all of us. We are stronger together. So stay vigilant, observe all the measures, wear a mask in public, maintain physical distancing, and practice good hygiene for a safer and healthier Guyana.
When the newsroom returns, Jacky Jaxx and her standout performance at the presidential inauguration. Singer Jacky Jaxx has received rave reviews for her performance at the inauguration ceremony for her President Irfan Ali on Saturday. In an interview with the newsroom, she reflected on what took her to that moment, about the dress she wore and the reactions she has been getting.
When I got the call, I knew that this was ordained in terms of I already had everything prepared for something like this. The dress that I wore was designed by Guyanese designer Quinton Pearson of House of Pearson. And I made that dress to sing at the Golden Jubilee in 2016. So when I wrote the song, I needed an outfit to go along with the performance of it. And that was in 2016 for the Golden Jubilee. And I did get the call that I was looking for, but the negotiations did not go as planned. And I believe a song of that nature needed the right stage because it had a very important message.
I think about the ways you make me smile, I'd be standing here and smiling for a while.
In the song, I speak a lot about my love for my country. And I am a poet at heart. So there is a line in the song, Guyana. It says, a paradise so wondrous to behold. A work of art, her heart is gleaming gold. And, Madia is basically in the center of Guyana. So it's literal and it's also, symbolic. So the dress symbolized El Dorado gold. And that we are the gold of this country, the people.
Guyana, Guyana, I'll be holding on to you forevermore. Guyana, my Guyana, may the blessings of God never leave your shores.
It came from my heart. And when I got the call, I said, okay, this is the right moment in Guyana with everything that is going on with the elections, with 2020. And there is a lot of fear that is passing through the community. There is a lot of hope, tension, nervousness. And I believe as a musician, it is my spiritual purpose to spread love and to spread togetherness and nationhood, to use my gift and my talent to connect people. So when I got that opportunity to do that, I said yes. Somebody said this performance at the inauguration, it brought them a lot of comfort and made them feel calm about everything that is happening. And that is my role and my purpose.
Your children all, we try though we may fall, but we stand united now to heed your call.
The video, even though it was done then, I'm releasing it this week, and this is the first time anybody knows this. So big up to y'all. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity. They can download the song or stream it on iTunes, Amazon Music, Google Play, Tidal, everywhere, every online store. The video of the performance is also on my YouTube channel, Jacky Jaxx. Please follow me on Instagram. It's Jacky Jaxx. And like me on Facebook, Jacky Jaxx Music. Follow the movement.
It is our Guyana. Stand up for Guyana. It's my Guyana.
Jacky Jaxx there. When the newsroom returns, the financial, weather and bridge reports along with sport. Welcome back to the newsroom. It's time for sport. Guyana Amazon Warriors opener Chandrapaul Hemraj is looking forward to positive results in this year's Hero CPL, both from a personal and team standpoint. The left-hander spoke to Avinash Ramzan at the weekend.
Now, looking ahead to this tournament, the 2020 tournament, what are you looking to achieve from a personal standpoint? Because you came off a very good tournament in 2019. I'm sure you want to build on that.
Yeah, definitely want to better my performance from last year. I'm scoring more runs, and whenever I get the opportunity with the ball, make the most of it. So once again, I will look to be among the runs.
Yeah. All right. Finally, no Shoaib Malik this year. Of course, he led the team admirably last season. Warriors still without the title. How do you see it going this season for the Guyana Amazon Warriors?
We just got to go through the process. Do what we've been doing for the longest while. I mean,
right.
we came close most of the time, so there's not much wrong that we're doing. So whenever we get off again, I think we just got to stick together and keep doing the same simple basic thing that we've been doing right through the tournament, and hopefully it will come off this time about.
You usually accustomed to having the fans, at Providence cheering you guys on. That is not the case this season. Of course, they will be watching from their television sets. Any message you want to leave with the fans?
Yeah, it's kind of disappointed not to be playing amongst the fans. This support have been vital, and we know that they'll be watching from home or wherever, whoever supporting the Amazon Warriors. So we will go there and play some good cricket that we always been playing, and hopefully we can bring home the trophy this year.
The Cricket West Indies board could be cut to 9 members if governance reforms recommended by an independent task force are accepted. CWI currently features an 18-member board, including 12 members put forward from the regional cricket boards. But a task force headed by Jamaican Senator Don Webby has called for the board to be cut to 12 immediately and 9 eventually. More in this report.
It has also called for the board to reflect a wide cross-section of skills and competencies and include a minimum of 2 women. There is currently 1 woman on the board. If the recommendations are to be enacted, they will have to be accepted by the current board. That means the current board members would effectively have to agree to their own removal. The task force, which also included Sir Hilary Beckles, Derek Murray and Charles Wilkin QC, was formed at the request of CWI's president Ricky Skerritt to look into corporate governance at the organization. Alongside a streamlining of the board, it called for a redefining of the role of the president and vice president to ensure they were more board-specific and non-executive. The recommendation would appear to stem from a previous report by independent auditors, PKF, which raised concerns that during the presidency of Dave Cameron, Skerritt's predecessor, the line between president and executive was often blurred. Cameron has denied all allegations made in the report. Other recommendations in the 36-page task force report include the establishment of a nominations committee to identify and evaluate potential directors and to nominate future directors and committee members, and a reduction in the number of CWI committees from 12 to 5. Such a change would likely see more independent directors with less influence and arguably less partisanship from the regions. The report, which was compiled after months of consultation and observation of best practice elsewhere, also noted that reform was needed to ensure the sustainability of CWI. It highlighted the need to foster the rebuilding of trust and a common purpose between CWI and other stakeholders, especially with regional governments.
Marcio Maximo, who is head coach of Guyana's senior national men's football team, commonly called the Golden Jaguars, said he's happy to see more players with Guyanese heritage either seeking to play for the country or signing deals with quality clubs. Speaking to Newsroom Sport from Rio de Janeiro on Monday, the coach said he wants players who are keen on helping to develop the national team. He added that there must be a balance in opportunities for local-based players.
Some more footballers with Guyanese heritage either sign for clubs, and some of them are now being brought to the forefront. What are your thoughts about going after all of these players to ensure you will have a larger pool of hopefully quality players to represent Guyana?
We see that many players, like you said, many players around recover the interest to play for Guyana national team. This is our challenger. Put inside each player desire to come back to national team, and you create one challenge inside that pool, that group. We don't want the players that coming to Guyana just to enjoy the travel or to enjoy their career, their private career. You want the players that coming to Guyana to improve our football and help us to back to first scenario in football. That's why you create the numbers, not exactly number, but one number around the 80, 90 players international to also give opportunity for our local players to play. Because I give it to you one little example, a small example. You know how the player that the people in street asking me more today in national team is Bobby. Bobby is our local player, but the player that the people have more identify with national team players among them. This is the idea that we want to improve. We want to create the relationship between the local fans, because football in Guyana is the biggest sport. The biggest sport in Guyana is football. For create this atmosphere, for create the football atmosphere, we need to create idols. We need to create players that have some identification with our people, our local people. How you find this balance? Create the numbers. It's not just because we play international level. So should play international level. We create a new category of players now. Exported players. Players that play in Guyana like Cortez, like Pinel, like Sheldon. Okay, Pinel and Sheldon play in Trinidad, but play abroad. We should create another category of players in national team, not only international and the locals, but also export players, players that born and grow in Guyana and go to play abroad. But we are very happy with the pool, because the pool increased players that play international level. Now Gordon, our left fullback, signed with Bolton Wanderers as well. Another center back signed with Bolton Wanderers as well. Matt Brown signed with Memphis from MLS. So the team is coming. Agora, we need to be very careful to maintain this balance in between international players and the local players.
2 weeks after returning from Cuba, where they were stranded for 126 days, the 4 national boxers have been cleared to return to training. That's according to President of the Ghana Boxing Association, Steve Ninval. Avinash Ramzan reports.
Speaking to Newsroom, Ninval said the boxers were psychologically evaluated on Sunday by Dr. Sixtus Edwards, a clinical psychologist. The 4 boxers, Colin Lewis, Kevin Alicock, Desmond Amsterdam and Dennis Thomas, have now been given the green light to return to training once the necessary approval is granted by the relevant authorities.
We got to wait on the guidelines, the COVID-19 guidelines. But what is said is that they are mentally sound enough to return to training. We had promised that we would have had a psychological evaluation done on each and every member of that team. It has now been done, and they've all been given the green light to return to training. We are very happy from the executive from the executive of the Guyana Boxing Association. We're very happy to have that, or to have that clearance, and we'll await word from the government and the COVID-19 task force on the way forward. But we're very happy that they have been cleared.
The boxers were stranded in Cuba since March 20 after COVID-19 measures were implemented in the country, among them the closure of the main ports of entry. Guyana's ports of entry were also closed to limit the spread of the deadly virus. The boxers were initially in Cuba for a 3-month training stint ahead of the America's Olympic qualifier in Argentina. The qualifier, which was set for March 26 to April 4, was postponed due to COVID-19. Reporting for Newsroom, I'm Avinash Ramzan. Cricket news now. England all-rounder Ben Stokes will miss the remainder of the Test series against Pakistan for family reasons. It has been announced. Stokes has played all 4 Test matches so far this summer, captaining his country in Joe Root's absence in the first, the series opener against the West Indies. But the 29-year-old will fly to New Zealand later this week, said the England and Wales Cricket Board. He was born in that country, where his parents, Jed and Deb, still live. We tell you now that Guyanese Lennox Allen lost by unanimous decision to Cuban Osvari David Morrell Jr. in their WBA interim super middleweight title fight at the Microsoft Theater in USA on Saturday evening. Morrell Jr., 22, was dominant throughout the contest, outboxing the 35-year-old Allen, who suffered a first defeat in his 24th fight. Judges Dr. Lau Moret, 120-108, Fernando Villarreal, 119-109, and Steve Morrow, 118-110, all scored a bout heavily in favor of Morrell Jr. Allen said it's now back to the drawing board as he seeks to rebound from a maiden defeat. The win has put Morrell Jr. in a position to challenge for the real title, seemingly at any point he so chooses in his promising career. Some motor racing news now. Max Verstappen has become the first non-Mercedes driver to win a race in 2020, the Red Bull racer winning in the 70th anniversary Grand Prix from the Mercedes pairing of Lewis Hamilton and pole sitter Valtteri Bottas after an incredible display at Silverstone. Verstappen had been the only driver in the top 10 to begin the race on hard tires.